what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today we're going to be looking at double legendary sims. In 9.2, I guess coming in 9.2, Blizzard has indeed announced that there's going to be 2 legendary combinations possible. I guess however you want to word that. You can wear 1 covenant-based legendary, you can wear 1 legendary of a non-covenant type. Meaning you can't wear, for example, as far as demonology is concerned, Wilfred's and Horn Nightmare. You can't wear Cinders and Madness for Destro. You can wear either Decaying Soul Satchel or Shard of Annihilation for Necrolord, and then 1 other Warlock, or I guess class-based legendary. Now, with that being said, there's some mixed takes on it overall. Double Legendaries is indeed something that looks pretty cool. We had it in Legion towards the end. It was really, really cool. Classes felt pretty in-depth, along with tier bonuses and things like that stacking. Personally, I would rather see 2 of any legendary. The Covenant ones for Warlock, the Knife one's good in AoE. It has some value in single target, but not a crazy amount. The Necrolord one is good in single target, not very good in AoE, and the Venthyr one is just utter garbage. The Kyrian one is okay, but not the best either. There are certain classes and specs out there that are going to gain a tremendous amount of value compared to others based around having 1-in-1, with having some restrictions put in place, you know, like Boomkin, for example. So I would assume Blizz has a lot of tuning to get done. I would also assume they're probably, I don't know, waist deep in tuning at this point, and maybe one of the reasons why they don't want to do just 2 of any kind of legendary. But regardless, today we're going to be looking at that sims with double legendaries. Now, I will say before we get into it, it took a very long time to compile all of these sim profiles and things. So there might be one tiny thing off in one sim. If you find it somewhere, feel free to post in the comment section. Congratulations, you found it. Great. It took me hours to compile these profiles and run them and get them all right. They're all playing the same talent build. They are all playing the same soul wine for each covenant for the most part. Nothing really should be too far off here, but the results are semi-expected and some things are actually a little interesting. So with that being said, let's talk briefly about legendaries for each spec and then get into the actual sims. Oh, and I forgot to mention 2 very important things. Number 1, any WeekORS add-ons profiles, you can get it for free on my Twitch. Swing by, hang out, ask any questions anytime. Feel free to do so. I stream 5 to 6 days a week on Twitch. And number 2, I want to give one massive shout out to my patrons. Thank you a million times, guys, for all support. Really, truly appreciate it. Heads up, similar to 9.1 and 9.0, the 9.2 Warlock spreadsheet will indeed be going up soon-ish once 9.2 PTR drops. We have some relevant info to put on it. Once again, the tier 3 Felgar rank for my Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to that. Now, with that being said, let's get into the video. Now, I also want to mention that these sims were run without Shards of Domination being active. I sort of took the easy way out and just took my helm off and had like 1 Blood, 1 Frost, and 2 Unholy. I didn't want any bonuses active in the raid. I wanted the gear to be basically the same across every single sim, and it is, barring changing out an ooze for each demonology sim. I'm wearing basically the exact same gear set across the actual board, barring the legendary swap as well. So briefly, the legendaries are going to sim for AF, Demo, and Destro. Obviously, each covenant legendary, I ran like 40 sims. There's going to be a lot, but we'll fly through them, we'll get through them. I'll have links to them down below as well, as long as I remember before I go to bed, because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So I ran sims to every covenant, Destro, Demo, AF, single target, Destro 2 target as well, and then 4 target, 40 seconds. Now, the talent profiles were the same across everything. I did not change Affliction to Wrath and Agony, so the seeds. I didn't sim Big Dog's build for Demo. In the end, there are 10 quadrillion different possible combinations of sims I could have run tonight. I ran like 30. I could, honest to God, I can probably run hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds of them. But I don't have 4 days to do it, nor would the video be that interesting. So once PTR gets out and some changes are made, which I assume are going to happen, we can feel them all out. Make some more I guess intricate videos at that point, but as of right now, we're mainly looking at like legendary combinations, what gains value, what loses value, and we can compare the DPS a bit across the board in certain places. So obviously each covenant has their own sims. I finished in the Kyrian hall here, but we're going to start off with Night Fae. Regardless though, the first thing we get into here, so for Affliction, I ended up simming Perpetual Agony of Azek here, Agony Shard Gen, Malefic Wrath, and Demonic Synergy. I did not sim Wrath, I did not sim Sacrilash's Dark Strike, and I did not sim Wilfred's. Basically, Wilfred's is just not good for AF. Wrath is good. Wrath can be good in Mythic Plus in certain like spots where ads are dying quite often, but the problem is you can't really sim that very realistically. So we didn't sim this, and Sacrilash is just not good anymore. So I mean, it can be in like I guess technically 2-ish target settings, but realistically, without having 2 of any legendary combination out there, you're playing DSS and typically something else, right? And in 2 target, you're typically playing either well, probably just synergy. So yeah, with that being said, as far as demonology is concerned, we ended up simming Horn Nightmare, Grim Inquisitors, Demonic Synergy, and Wilfred's. I did not sim Bale Spiders. Yes, I know Necrolord is there. I know shard of annihilation is a thing, but realistically, this build is just not there. We've seen it a million times. We played it a million times. It's cool, but in the end, the build is just so far behind. None of the actual modifiers are additive or multiplicative. They're all additive. It's just not relevant. We'll sim it more when PTR actually comes out, but in the end, that was a million more sims, and I didn't really feel like it was worth seeing a subpar performing, I guess, combination of legendaries. And we know IP can be very good in Mythic Plus, but once again, we know it's very good in Plus on 4 to 5 weeks at times. But overall, I mean, we know that, you know. And as far as Destro is concerned, we ended up simming Odir, Odor, whatever you want to call it, Cinders, Madness, and I ended up simming Wilfred's here in Synergy. So 5 of these 5, basically. I left out Embers because it just doesn't really see play anywhere. And without having like a any 2 combination, I don't think there's really any synergy anywhere. Pun not really intended. So, okay, getting into it. This should be the Night Phase sims. Yes, so DSS, Decaying Soul Satchel. So starting off here, number 1, Affliction single target sims. If you're curious, 5 minutes, 1 boss target here. I'll have links to it all down below. Now, I also want to say, so I would assume that APLs are not optimized for having 2 legendary combinations, so there could be some give and take here. I had to like jerry-rig half these sims to get them to work, but for the most part, a lot of the actual legendary effects are just like either passive, you hit your soul rat at this point, or you launch your impending catastrophe, and that's sort of that. So it's probably a good thing, at least there's 1/1 combinations at this point. Regardless, for Affliction, DSS Malefic Wrath, DSS Synergy, and DSS Agony. Now, these sims, once again, do seem lower than sims I have now. My Night Fae AF sim is like 11.6, 11.5, I think. But these aren't any, there's no unholy bonus here. There's no like set bonus enabled in the raid here. And I'm also wearing a couple lower eye level conduits than normal. So, but regardless, the big thing here is seeing the actual, like the legendary combinations, what's good, what's bad, and we can sort of compare damage across the board. So, number 1, DSS Malefic Wrath, followed by DSS Synergy, and then DSS Agony Shard Gen. Realistically, this is what we expected. Malefic Wrath is better in single target. We know this. Synergy is the 2nd best legendary. We played it for a good portion of Cast on Athri and things. And Agony Shard Gen being a decent bit behind here. Now, DSS is not an insane single target legendary. However, the haste scaling is multiplicative and things like that. So if you get, power infusion on top of using your DSS, it does scale a bit more than, the baseline amount of PI that it gives you. Same thing with Lust, same thing with other haste-based effects, right? So there is a bit of potential here, there's a bit of added potential here, I feel like, with DSS and Malefic Wrath. And by the way, look at the actual execute here. It increases a little bit. Let's see, we can pull this up briefly. It increases a little bit here, you can see. I mean, it's about the same, roughly, as like Lusting in your opener. But you'll see when we get to the Necrolord one, the execute like goes way up compared to this, because you are playing Malefic Wrath on both, but Necrolord has Decimating Bolt. Single target, DSS Malefic Wrath for Affliction for Night Fae, 4 target, 40 seconds, DSS Synergy, followed by DSS Agony, and then DSS Malefic Wrath. Now, once again, I didn't sim Sow the Seeds rather than Agony. You can if you want. I'm not running 8 million sims at 6 a.m. It's really late. But DSS is what we expected to be obviously big here, because Synergy is. But to be honest, like, Agony Shard Gen is not that far behind. It's about a 600-ish DPS difference, give or take, but at the same time, this is a 4 target setting at 32k DPS. Malefic Wrath being a bit lower, as we know. I mean, it's just single target based, So more or less what I expected here for the most part. Still cool to see, and I guess confirm overall. When PTR comes out, we will run some like corruption based sims too for that legendary also. So moving on here to Destro. So we got some questions here. What's gonna be for Destro? Number 1, DSS Cinders ahead of DSS Odir or the Cloak, whatever. Now there was some speculation on this actually being good in single target or better than Cinders when this patch first started off. I really didn't believe it. It didn't work out, obviously. But this Cloak Odir does indeed give you the 25% increased damage on like your target. Like if it's single target, you put Havoc up, it's still gonna take 25% more damage. It works that way. It probably shouldn't, but it does. Either way, Cinder's ahead by about 80-ish DPS here, which is expected, followed by Odir, Synergy, Wilfred's, and Madness. Going into the 2 target sims though, DSS Cinders and DSS Madness are very, very close to one another here, which is interesting because spoilers ahead, the other ones aren't as close here. DSS and Cinders, followed by DSS and Madness. Now, I can't like it's sort of hard to like try and figure out why this is like this compared to others. It might be due to like this DSS Cinders further conflict rate reductions, getting their conflict rate in the window, maybe their Chaos Bolt cast. with the like scaling haste crit effects. I mean, just being good and having one in the first place. It probably just is that, but I'm not really sure why it favors Cinders a whole lot over Madness here. It could be just because like squeezing in another conflict rate because of the reduced like cast time or CD time on it and stuff, with Cinders being a thing. But regardless, very, very close here. And it's cool to see Madness this close as well, because typically Madness is it's been behind like 100-ish DPS in these sims when I've seen previously, but it's basically 1-1 right here, which is really, really cool to see. And moving on to the 4-target 40-second sim, DSS Madness is ahead by a good bit here. Now, I will say, number one, this is not with Reign of Chaos. This is Roaring Blaze. If you want to sim Reign of Chaos, go for it. It's fine. It would be a million more sims on top of, you know, Corruption sims, and so the Seed sims and Wrath and Agony sims. But if you want to sim that, feel free, go ahead. Number two, this is a 40-second sim, which means it greatly devalues Wilfred's here by a tremendous amount, because you're not getting another Infernal, obviously. But in plus, if you drop your Infernal, get a decent bit of, you know, CDR with Wilfred's out, you can typically carry that over to the next pack and have your Infernal again. So it sort of makes sense, I feel like, to have Madness up here. Cinder dropping off a little bit, but overall Wilfred's is still the best bet here with DSS as far as concerned, I feel, with this build. In plus, and like settings where you're gonna get multiple Infernals, and I don't think it's very close. So overall, single target wise, for Night Fae with this sim, Destro being about 8.63, sorry, AF being about 9.3, and Demonology being 10.1. So I'm gonna, Demonology actually gains probably the most value with DSS out of any of the specs here I've seen for Night Fae. My Demonology sim right now on retail is like 11.7k, I think, with Dreamweaver. No, it's 11, I think it's 11.1. Either way, it doesn't really matter a whole lot, but regardless, there is still no unholy bonus active in this sim. But when we skip ahead to later sims here with Demonology, yeah, Wilfred's ahead. Spoilers ahead, Wilfred's still ahead, as we probably could have guessed, but not by this much. The power of DSS with Soul Rot and Dreamweaver, going like Tyrant, all that stuff, Soul Rot, DSS, having that amp carry over into every single Tyrant, Demonology gains a lot of value with DSS, albeit, you know, okay, it might gain a little more value if you're able to play like Wilfred's and Grim or Wilfred's and Horn together, but regardless, having that haste amp on your Tyrant and that crit amp, it's pretty big. Demo's built around Decon, haste and crit amps. Spoilers or surprise, they still work out pretty well. And 4-target 4 seconds here, once again, DSS Horned followed by Synergy and Grim. If we simmed Implosive Potential, it would probably be up here above, it would be above Horned. It'd be DSS Implosive, but I didn't, because obviously we know it's very good, and plus I wasn't going to compile 18 more profiles. Also, similar to Destro, anywhere you see Wilfred's with a 40-ish second sim, even any sim, depending on duration, it's important to keep that duration in mind, because you might be getting an extra Tyrant or an extra Infernal, or you might be losing one, just like how we were with Destro. Demonology here, once again, DSS and Wilfred's here being pretty undervalued because it's only one Tyrant, but overall, and plus, Wilfred's is still a very, very, very strong legendary. To a similar extent, Grim is also devalued a good bit too, because you're not chaining, you know, this Grim value from one pack to the next, building a big set of dogs, and we're also not simming dogs built here. So DSS and Wilfred's still here. If you want to sim it, you can. Once again, I'll have the links to the profiles down below. You can tinker with them if you want, if you know how to do it. We will run more in-depth sims when PTR comes out again. I want to clarify, but like I also want to say once again, these sims, to run every profile, I know you guys want to see them, would literally take probably 6 hours for me to compile them all. I'm not a sims guru. I have a, yeah, so there's that. But once again, DSS AF or Demo gaining a lot of value here with Wilfred's compared to other ones. So this is Night Fae. Overall Night Fae, from what, like I said, 9.35 from Maleficraft DSS. Destro being about 8.6, which needs a buff. And we have DSS Wilfred's at 10.1. Demo doing a pretty good bit of damage here. I believe this is the only 10k plus sim of any Covenant in single target. Spoilers ahead once again. So moving on from this, we have, let's just, what do we have here? We have Necrolord, which is very interesting. So Necrolord, I'll try and pull both these up here if I can. Maybe I can do this. Let's see. Necrolord stuff, right? Alrighty. So single target, Shard of Annihilation, Malefic Wrath, 9,500 DPS. Well, it already beat out Night Fae by about 150 DPS. Now, I also am not sure if this is the current APL for Necrolord, because following up with the video I put about a week and a half ago, looking at Necrolord Malefic Wrath AF, with my sim being like 10.35 Malefic Wrath, that, yeah, that APL was improved again. My sim was like 10.7k now with it. So Necrolord Malefic Wrath is indeed ahead of Night Fae for me, even on retail right now. I don't believe, unless they push the fix tonight over the weekend, I don't believe this is the current fully optimized APL for Necrolord Malefic Wrath. Now it might be, but regardless, even if it is, okay, it's ahead of Night Fae about 150 DPS. If it's not, it's going to be ahead by about 450 DPS. So it's ahead by a pretty substantial bit, which is cool to see because like Shard Violation synergy, you know, Drain Soul dealing more crit damage, guaranteed to crit. And look at the actual execute damage here in the final phase, playing this build, ramping up, right? Let's pull this up here. Look at the damage increase. Like here's your opener with less than things, right? Peaking at about 21k, peaking about here at about 23.5, give or take. And you can see it very slowly ramping up over the course of time. A tiny bit, a little bit more. The dips here at 5.6k, the dip here being at what, like, I don't know, 7.5k, early on being 5.6, increasing to like 5.7, it's 6.7. It slowly ramps over the course of the fight, right? Just due to like decimating bolt, the target being lower and lower in health. It's cool to see. It might not be as flashy like when you're hitting a dummy or just practicing somewhere, but the further that fight goes, you bring a much more relevant execute based profile too, which can be very, very strong in certain settings. So moving on from that, here's your 4-target sim, Shard, Malefic Wrath, actually beating out Shard Synergy and Shard Agony, Shard Gen, however you want to word that. But the big thing here, you can notice the loss of DSS. DSS for Night Fae being 31.4, this one being 25.4. Yeah, losing DSS is pretty big. Now, once again, these sims aren't fully optimized and stuff. The Malefic Wrath, from what I've heard, the APL's been updated for Malefic Wrath and not really other ones outside of that. So it very well probably is Select Synergy and Agony being better than Malefic here in like AoE stuff. But regardless, losing DSS, as we know, makes things, it hurts a pretty good bit. Moving on here to Destro. Single target Destro. Shard Cinders being 9,223 DPS. That's ahead of the Night Fae one by about 800 DPS. It's ahead by a pretty substantial bit. Also a pretty significant increase over that. So the AF sim is higher and the Destro sim is higher by a pretty substantial margin. Similar to Night Fae being followed by Odir here, Madness, Synergy. Moving on to the 2-target sim though. Shard, Madness, followed by Shard Cinders. Looking at the 2-target sim here, for Night Fae though, DSS and Cinders versus DSS Madness. Very, very close. Basically, pretty much almost identical here. Interestingly enough, Shard and Cinders being, yeah, pretty much a pretty big difference here, right? 250 DPS, give or take, favoring Madness, which is cool to see, because honestly, I prefer Madness a bit more, either way. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on this as far as things go. It's cool to see. I don't know what else to do it. It's ahead by a little bit. And here's your big 40 target, or 4 target 40-second sim. At 29,000, basically 30k with Shard and Madness compared to Night Fae being 36,000. Once again, DSS is, yeah, it's pretty good. Shard is not a bad legendary, but it's much more single target based with Destro. It's incinerate damage compared to, I mean, yes, okay, technically, you know, Soul Rot is just Soul Rot, so it's kind of like, you know, class-based ability, but it gives you that haste and crit amp. And whether it, you know, it's as impactful for Destro as it is Affliction, it's still impactful. So you're losing a decent bit here, and I've played a little bit of Destro Mythic Plus with this, and you can definitely feel the loss a little bit here. Madness Synergy, once again, Wilfred's being devalued greatly because of it being a short sim. Wilfred's is going to be your best bet here if you're playing 2-minute build. Otherwise, Cinders is fine if you're playing Roaring Blaze or other kind of build too. So it just depends what you're looking at here regardless, right? Demonology for Necrolord, 9,805 DPS. Now, this is very, very interesting because previously, currently, like as of right now, Demonology, like Necrolord Demo, is pretty much the same as Night Fae Demo, damage-wise. Because Kevin's Oozling is very, very strong. It has Tyrant scaling effects. It increases your target. It increases the damage your Tyrant deals to your target by 6%, which is very, very strong. You hold your Decimating Bolt for basically every Tyrant. Now, I mean, the positive thing about Decimating Bolt and how the interaction is that, okay, it increases Demon Bolt damage. So, like, holding it for your Tyrant, it's not that big of a loss because, like, I mean, Demon Bolt's like what, 5-6% of our damage overall. Even in this sim, playing Shard and Wilfred, it's probably like, I don't know, 8%, give or take. Demon Bolt's not a very large portion of our damage. It's 8.8%, right? Not a crazy amount. The negative is that, like, at the same time, there's not a very intricate, or there's not like a synergistic interaction with, you know, our pet based off the actual ability that the buff that it grants, right? It's giving you Kevin's Oozling, which is fine. That's great. That's cool. But it's not like, okay, whenever I cast Estimating Bolt, it increases my tyrant damage by 20%, you know, for 3 casts or whatever, right? So there's a bit of a disparity here, shifting back towards Night Fae being, where's the Night Fae sim at here? Being ahead by about, I mean, I don't know, about 320-ish DPS. Once again, DSS, haste amps, crit amps in that tyrant window, playing Dreamweaver. Very, very strong. This could indeed be changed, min-maxed around a bit more, I'm sure. But regardless, you know, still not bad. Necrolord ahead in Destro single target, ahead in Ash single target, and Demo not that far off, you know. Keep in mind, Covenants, they're swappable as well. So 4 target, 40-second sim here once again. Shard, Horned, all this stuff. But once again, it doesn't favor Wilfred's or Grim. So Wilfred's still best here, probably followed by Grim, unless you're playing Implosive. So I will, let's move on here to number 3. I know it's just stacking up and being a bit awkward here, but I'll try and make it all work. So number 3, we have Venthyr. Now, buckle up, because Venthyr is not very good. Like, we know this. So, Venthyr Affliction, Malefic Wrath, 8.1k. Yeah, so we're behind about 1200 DPS. Now, I'm gonna be honest here. I haven't even looked at the actual APL and opener on Venthyr, like Malefic Wrath Affliction, because I assume, number one, no one's played it in 6 years, or okay, 6 months, a long time. It's probably not optimized completely. Let's see here. So it opens up on Haunt, Agony, UA, Siphon, Corruption, PS, Dark Soul. It actually does. Wait, where's the Dark Layer? Okay, okay, it dark layers a little later than it should. The APL is not optimized, as we can see. I'm like, everything looks good for the most part. Oh, but there should be a dark layer right here. Okay. Either way, the APL is not optimized. Even if it was, I mean, we know for a fact that Impending Catastrophe in single target is just not good. Now, the legendary effect increases the damage that it does in AoE by a pretty substantial amount if it can hit multiple targets, right? The damage over time was increased by a lot, plus 15 for each enemy target it hits on the way to its final target. So huge, like large, like mass AoE pull, hit 8 targets in the way, it explodes, it's ticking for a lot more damage, right? But in single target, it's unfortunately pretty lacking. Moving on to the 4-second sim here, 4 targets, you're at about 17k. Now, I don't believe this sim is optimized around either for Venthyr, because the legendary is sort of finicky. It's sort of hard to tell, actually, because I guess I could have run a sim comparing the legendary, like with it on and not, with it like not on, but I would assume the legendary is probably not working optimally here. 17k is pretty low. Looking at the actual Night Fae when playing the exact same build, yes, it's DSS, but Night Fae is doing twice the damage. I would assume it's not getting the actual buff from the legendary effect, which would be a pretty significant actual increase. Now, if I sim, 10 targets, it might increase by a pretty big amount, because once again, Soul Rot is target capped, Impending Catastrophe is not, right? But if 0 times 10,000, unfortunately, is still 0, and Impending Catastrophe without any buffs is a very, very, very piss poor ability, right? That's one of the main issues with Venthyr Lock, is that you have Night Fae, which has Decaying Soul Satchel, which can be good in single target, fine in single target, very good in AoE. You have Necrolord, which is good in single target for Destro, Demo, and AF, and like okay-ish in AoE depending what you're doing. But like Venthyr is just so bad. It's bad in single target. Barring playing legendary, it's bad in AoE, and I don't want to play a legendary and a conduit to make it good. I want the ability to be good on its own and make it better in certain settings. Like Venthyr is the #1 covenant that needs to be buffed for Warlock going into this patch. Like, it's not close. Venthyr is just in a very, very, very awkward spot. But regardless, though, I wanted to show these sims, but they're not really optimized as far as usage of IC and things go. And with AF, with Dark Layer extensions and things, it's actually pretty relevant, right? Moving on. So here is IC, Impending Catastrophe, and Madness, just Destro sims, right? Single target here, Impending Catastrophe and Cinders. #1. Once again, this is playing Roaring Blaze build, all that kind of stuff. We know this. Yeah, a bit of a separation here. Odir actually being a bit lower, Synergy being a bit higher here. Not really sure what threw that off compared to maybe just like, I don't know, maybe just like synergy interactions with Impending Catastrophe uptime. And the actual dot effect, not really sure. But regardless, Cinder still being ahead here. Cinder's being at 8.3k in single target, Night Fae being at 8.6k. So like not a massive difference here, but once again, Destro's nowhere near as like the use of Impending Catastrophe and things for Destro is nowhere near as impactful as it is like for Affliction timing wise. And with the APL being scuffed, obviously it makes a bit of a difference, but Just the world we live in right now. So moving on, 5 minutes, 2 targets here. I see Cinders ahead by about 100 DPS, which is interesting because, like we said, so Cinders being ahead by about 100 DPS here. But if we go back to Necrolord is has Madness ahead by about 250 DPS. And if we go to Night Fae, it's literally a wash. So I really can't. I didn't spend enough time thinking about what interactions could is causing this here, what could be causing this. But regardless, it's really sort of cool, interesting to see how they all change between 2 target profiles and things here. There's only a 12 DPS margin of error. We're not looking at a huge difference here, so it could be APL optimization. We'll dig more through that when PTR goes live and such. But it's sort of cool to see both Cinders and Madness going back and forth here, duking it out in the 2 target sims here, right? And this is your 40-second 4 target sim here, right? Madness, Synergy, we know the same thing. Interestingly, Wilfred's being devalued here once again because Infernals. Interestingly enough, 31k IC and Madness, right? This is 4 targets. Where is, let's see, the Necrolord sim for this is 29. Once again, Charge of Annihilation for Necrolord and Decimating Bolt not really being a very good AoE ability, right? Now, sure, okay, Night Fae once again has 36k, but overall, not terrible. And if, let's see here, if, I don't know, but if the actual legendary effect is not counting how many targets it hits, for example, because it's a 4 target sim, but I have no idea if it's counting, okay, I hit 3 targets and I hit the 4th one. You know what I mean? If it's not doing that, IC could actually be pretty decent in these larger polls. And what we've seen in testing, like in running some DOSs, running some large AoE settings, even talking to THG about it, the actual Madness the big IC legendary, whatever it's called for Venthyr, this thing, Contained Perpetual Explosion, is very, very good in large AoE polls. Because having that huge amp for multiple mobs that it hits is actually legitimate. But once again, in single target, it's pretty lacking, even with the conduit being single target based. So I'm not too surprised to see that there. Sort of cool to see. I can dig through it more a bit later on. Let's see how much damage it dealt here, actually. It was 12.8% of our damage, which honestly feels a bit low compared to a single target being 8.8. I would assume it's probably not working optimally in here, but I'm not really sure. Sort of hard to tell without running multiple sims. But so demonology, Night or Venthyr. Remember how we had a 10k sim for Night Fae? Yeah, we are 1,000 DPS behind. Literally 1,000 DPS behind Night Fae. Night Fae once again being 10.12. This one being 9.12 essentially, right? Now, once again, I actually haven't looked at the APLs optimized for this either. I assume it probably is, and just sort of universally, applicable for every kind of Wilfred's version of demo. We can look briefly here. Look at pet setup and things. Let's see. So it's let's see. Here's precast Demon Bolt, Grimoire Vile Theme build to 5, cast dogs. Where did pop Ruby at? Okay, you popped Ruby a little early, not a big deal. Hand of Gul'dan, Shadow Bolt, Demon Bolt proc, Hand of Gul'dan, Tyrant's at 11. Yeah, so the opener is actually fine. The opener is optimized for actually hands here. Yeah, it strengths a bit late, but it's okay-ish. Strength should be a little earlier than that. It's not getting Tyrant coverage, but whatever, it's fine. It strengths a bit late. But regardless, though, the actual opener is optimized. It's just, number one, there's no real interactions with Necrolord or with Venthyr Demonology compared to Necrolord with Kevin's Oozling or Night Fae with DSS and Dreamweaver Haste Amps and Dream Delver, right? It's just sort of, hey, I have this button that launches this big, spirit bomb of red anima, and there's no interactions anywhere. And this is what I'm saying. This is the problem with Venthyr for Locke, and even Kyrian to a similar extent, right? But really Venthyr, which we get to Kyrian in a minute, is that, Necrolord, Decimating Bolt, Shard of Annihilation, Night Fae, Soul Rot, DSS, they interact well with different specs and different talents and things like that. We don't even know tier sets yet, right? But Venthyr is just hit this big red button of goo and hope you have 10 targets around you. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything, right? So Venthyr, honestly, buffing the Venthyr ability would be nice. I'd like a rework, honestly. The curse part of Impending Catastrophe, as cool as it is, it's not really mandatory anywhere. You don't see the world first plus 30 keys playing a Venthyr Warlock because, the mobs hit so hard we can't deal with it. No, they just deal with it, right? It as cool as it is, it doesn't really matter. It's not really relevant, right? I would like to see some kind of rework to the ability, but either way, demo not really looking the best. Here's your large 40-second 4-target sim for Demo. IC synergy. Once again, Wilfred's and Grim being devalued here. It's still Wilfred's, followed by Grim. So yeah, Venthyr, Demo being a little sketch. Venthyr across the board not being very good. Doesn't have one spec of... I mean, I guess Demo or Destro sort of similar to Night Fae, and not as good as Necrolord, because, you know, Necrolord stuff is, what 9k, something like that? What was Necrolord? 9.2. Yeah, you know, so... Venthyr unfortunately takes the L with 0 actual relevant specs. Sounds good. Moving on to Kyrian. So Kyrian's interesting. For those that don't know, the Kyrian legendary was changed in 9.15. It really wasn't talked about much. I think it's sort of undervalued right now, actually. So it is this thing. Where is it? So yeah, Languishing Soul Detritus. When Scouring Tide generates soul shards, when the mob dies, basically with Scouring Tide on it, you get 100% increased movement speed and 45% increased crit strike chance for 8 seconds. If Scouring Tide expires, meaning you're fresh to the dot, you gain 33% movement speed and 15% crit for 8 seconds, which is basically a third of the value, which is pretty cool, right? So basically, if Scouring Tide expires, you have 15% crit every 18 seconds, right? If it dies, you get more crit for, you know, 8 seconds, but you have to wait to put up Scouring Tide again, right? So this is actually not bad. I was relatively impressed with the final output of Sims here. So like here's Affliction, right? Languishing Soul, whatever, Malefic Wrath, 9k. Now, I haven't looked at the APLs a whole lot for this either. I would assume there's probably some kind of min-maxing to do with this, right? Because, I mean, up until a few days ago, I don't believe the actual legendary was even added or updated to have the crit bonus effect on it. You probably could tinker with it a little bit. But hey, number one, it's not as bad as Venthyr, right? Venthyr is in a pretty bad spot. So, okay, I can already tell. Okay, so we're precasting a Haunt and we're opening on Phantom Sin. Okay. So the Kyrian AF APL could probably be improved as well. We're opening on Singularity into a Dark Soul, into then an Agony, and we're not precasting our UA. We're casting Siphon, Scouring Tide, then Corruption. At least at Dark Lair before the Raptures. There's some optimization around this APL. I'll look into it and talk to somebody about it. But regardless, though, with the opener being that scuffed and being at 9k, that's not too bad. Having that 15% crit buff every 15 seconds, give or take, is actually pretty solid. Keep in mind, like with a super scuffed APL, you're at 9k versus Night Fae being at 9.33 with DSS Malefic Wrath. That's pretty solid. With a scuffed APL like that, there's probably a lot of value that can be found there. To a similar extent, Necrolord being 9.5k, like there's probably a lot of value to be found with Kyrian. Quite possibly, right? Now I'll look into it. I'll talk to somebody about it. We'll see what we can do. Maybe I'll make an updated video on it. But regardless, not bad for the state of that APL, right? Moving on here. 4 targets, 40 seconds, Languishing and Synergy, followed by Malefic and Agony. I mean, out of these 3 effects, it just makes the most sense. Interesting to see Malefic ahead of Agony here, but I guess short duration, increased crit chance on Drain Soul, I guess makes some sense, I suppose. Maybe not getting full Agony Shard value. Couldn't really tell you. Comparing it to Night Fae, though, it's literally 10k DPS behind, I believe, incorrect. 6k, sorry, it doesn't matter. Night Fae's better. Okay, Destro, Languishing Cinders, followed by Synergy, followed by Oh Dear, whatever. Cinders, right? Ahead by about, 180 DPS. We expect that. It's been the way for every single sim. So as TLDR, Cinders is still your best legendary for Destro. I think we all knew this though, right? 2 target. Languishing Cinders ahead by 100 DPS over Madness here. It's so funny how we've seen literally a wash between the two. Like a 2 DPS difference and like favoring Cinders, favoring Madness, favoring this. It's sort of cool, right? I'd almost even expect Madness to be ahead here because like the increased crit chance maybe in a Havoc window, but I don't know. It is what it is, right? They go back and forth. Sort of cool to see regardless. Here's your big 4 target, 40 second sim. Languishing Cinders, or sorry, Synergy being ahead here once again. Wilfred's incredibly devalued. Languishing Wilfred's for 2-minute build. Yeah. Cinders being behind a bit here, but once again, duration, not really, affects things a little bit. Demonology. I was impressed with Demonology as well for this, by the way. Demo is at 9.5k. I don't know how the APL looks. I probably should look into some of these before the actual video, but I wasn't going to leave them out regardless. So I just sort of said, we'll look at it midway. 9.55k. Now, keep in mind, yes, okay, Night Fae was at 10.1, but let's see here. Precast Bolt, Grimoire, Vile Fiend, Dreadstalkers. Yep, everything looks good in the opener. So, not as good as Night Fae with DSS and Wilfred's. but not bad here either. I believe 9.6k. I believe this is the second highest. This is obviously demo. Knife A 10.1. I believe this is the second highest. Let's see, 9.5k languishing. Oh yeah, we actually had Necrolord being a little higher. Either way, not bad. It's impressive. It's more than what I thought it would be. And it, like, if you can actually get, like, the sim also won't show the value that you can possibly get out of a Scouring Tithe. If a mob dies, for example, you can't really simulate mobs dying in a patchwork sim, right? So it's giving you that permanent 15% buff. Let's say, for example, you can line up a Scouring Tithe with a mob dying right when you cast your Tyrant. It's sort of hard to do, but that huge increased crit chance, that's pretty dang relevant. So there's like a higher ceiling, I guess, for like optimization to things a bit as far as team is concerned with Kyrian. And where's the big AoE sim for Kyrian here? Yeah, Languishing Horn. Once again, Wilfred's being devalued a crazy amount. So TLDR, from what it looks like, I mean, these sims, obviously APLs can change a lot, and some of them probably should, as we should see. Number two, APLs aren't optimized for double legendaries. Now, some things, most of them probably don't change a whole lot, because like you just maintain scouring, you just cast impending catastrophe on cooldown. The bolt legendary seems to be estimating bolt seems to be optimized for Malefic Wrath, Af, Demo, and Destro for Necrolord, and Knife A is optimized. I would assume you just cast Soul Rot and the timer is basically the same. You get the haste amp and you go, right? But some changes probably could be made. But overall, Knife A looks to be like pretty solid for Demo. Like DSS, just Wilfred's haste value with Tyrant every time, crit value. Necrolord ahead for Destro and ahead for Af with Malefic Wrath, interestingly enough. Now, obviously not playing Knife A loses Soul Shape, loses certain other things, but still, not bad. Not bad. Necrolord's been gaining a lot of value. Not sure it's going to land, and we have to wait for the PTR to drop, but yeah, number one, I'd probably say it's a wash between Night Fae and Necrolord. Number, I guess, 3 being Kyrian. Number 4, like on the bottom floor of my complex, is Venthyr. Just buff the ability a crazy amount, or please rework it. In the end, rework it. Make it interactable with one of our make it do something to our spec. Make it interact with like one of our abilities, something like that. Maybe similar to like Decimating Bolt or something, but like, it just feels so bad, right? There's no way you can really game it. You can't really get value off of anything barring like Affliction with Malefic Rapture stuff. And honestly, like, you just seed an AoE anyways. It might be an extra dot for Wrath or Rapture, but who cares in single target, right? Like, you have Knife A does it better, and Kyrian does it better, and Necrolord also does it better. Venthyr needs help, and a lot of it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. That about wraps it up. Like I said, to reiterate again, it is now 6:15 in the morning. I'm tired, so I'm sorry if I missed a few things in this video. All the profiles, all the sims are run with the exact same gear set across each spec, barring the soul binds being different for different covenants, obviously. So there is a pretty decent comparison, I feel like, of raw DPS. Now, I did do this on PTR in 9.15, obviously. 9.2 PTR, I assume, will be out in a week or so, 2 weeks, who knows. But when that happens, we can get a lot more relevant info on these sims. I would assume some covenants probably gonna be buffed, some things probably nerfed, who knows. But I think for the most part, barring some interesting interactions with like DSS and Wilfred's and like Malefic Wrath, Charge Violation stuff for Necrolord, things were, I guess, what we expected, right? It's cool to see Necrolord getting some value, and it's also cool to see Night Fae, I guess, sort of, if you like Night Fae stuff still. The DSS interaction and Wilfred's and Tyrant value just being pretty strong there too. It's cool to see. And also DSS with Tyrant, if you can cleave it, hey man, you're gonna actually zoom. A Tyrant's gonna be zooming with Wilfred's. So yeah, many less every Tyrant. I'm down for it. All the links, actual sims, will be down in the video description. If you have any questions, feel free to down below in the comment section. I will be sure to get back to you. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I really truly do appreciate it. If you want any profiles, weak auras, or add-ons you see in this video, my Twitch, feel free to swing by. I stream 5 to 6 days a week. There's a link to my Discord down below as well, if you want to hop in there. Yeah, thank you once again to my patrons a million times for all support. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Heads up once again, the 9.2 Warlock spreadsheet will indeed be coming out pretty quickly after PTR drops, actually. So yeah, the tier 3 Felgar rank from a Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to that. All that being said, if you're looking at supporting or interested in supporting, there should be a link somewhere down below, maybe up here and in the video description. Much love, guys. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more content, be sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons below, and I will talk to you all again soon on stream. Peace.